Good morning, everyone. Welcome to DevPulseCon 2020, our first virtual conference. We are honored to host attendees from around the world this year. So I would like to personally welcome those of you who do not speak English as your primary language. So here goes. Please forgive me if I mispronounce things. Namaste, India. Assalamu alaikum to the Middle East, India, Singapore, and Malaysia. Welkom, Netherlands. Shalom, Israel. Hallo na karibu, Africa. Herzlich willkommen, Germany. Ni hao, China. Hola y buenos dias, Mexico. And welcome to the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. And last but not the least, to my fellow North Americans from the USA and Canada, a very hearty and warm welcome. This is a very strange year, as you all know. We had to postpone our conference from the usual April timeline to October due to COVID. It has given us the time and the resources to bring together a fantastic lineup of keynote speakers, workshops on technical and product management topics, as well as panels on being the sole income earner and finding a path from engineering to product management. And to keep everyone from burning out from all the Zoom sessions and online meetings, we have streamlined 2-hour morning and afternoon sessions. All timings for our sessions for DevPulseCon are Pacific time. I wanted to take this opportunity to mention ThriveWise programs we provide to companies as separate, standalone programs. We have our innovative Ally training for engineers and PMs, as well as our groundbreaking Safe Space program, which we are currently piloting at a prestigious Silicon Valley tech company in 2020 and 2021. Both of these new programs are in line with our mission to help improve workplace environments so that technical women can thrive in the workplace. So please do take a look at our programs on our website, thrive-wise.org. That is thrive-wise.org. And once again, welcome to DevPulseCon.
My name is Niharika. I am an engineer by trade, and I'm a ThriveWise volunteer and community member, and I'm here today to talk about the SRI Technical Mentorship Program that I signed up for last year. A little about me: I am a development engineer with background mostly in data storage and data distributed file systems and the data storage operating systems. I used to work for NetApp. I worked in their file services and data caching product. I currently work for Dell EMC in the data protection division on the data domain file system. I work in the encryption space in the file system. I live in the Bay Area. I found out about the program when I attended DevPulseCon last year through NetApp. I was working for NetApp at that point of time. The pilot was announced in the conference and I found it very interesting. And I found it to be a good chance to learn about open source and start trying it out, because if it's not something that you do in your day job, then good to get started. So the mentorship program is an opportunity to collaborate with researchers from SRI International. It's a chance to work on open source projects all under the Apache 2 license. All participation was completely voluntary on my part and like completely independent of my employer. We in fact cleared it out specifically with the employer. And for me, it was a learning opportunity to enhance my skills. The initial meeting within the ThriveWise members started in last July, where we spoke to each other and we got handouts basically from SRI in terms of what are the two broad areas where projects would be, and we spoke about logistics, expectations, and the structure of the program, how many hours are expected, and just getting to know the members, right? The projects were across two broad areas, which is machine learning and compilers and static analysis. We got some resources from the SRI engineers, and we had a bi-weekly sync within ThriveWise members to share like our learning and whatever we're understanding about like the two broad areas. So the project officially kicked off in September 2019 when we got a chance to meet with SRA engineers and project managers on campus. We met with Susmit Jha and Ashish Gihani, and we got detailed talks about the two areas. One was explainable deep learning, and the other was automated software engineering, which dealt with code bloat, and the Trinity project, which dealt with basically bias in AI systems. It was a great chance to meet with people face to face and connect with other engineers who had signed up for the program. We then sort of broke up with each individual engineer trying to figure out what like your area of interest is, right? And identify what your area of learning would be. And I lean towards the resilience in AI program and that particular project, which was looking at bias. And in terms of the next steps I took for the project, I took some formal machine learning courses on Udemy and Pluralsight, and I started reading through like the vast literature that was available, started looking at the project and the source code of the tool, trying to understand what it does, and trying to fill my own gaps in terms of like learning about machine learning, different techniques, and identifying like what is the public data that is available in public domain that can be used to come up with like a problem space that I'm interested to work on, right? The different areas that I looked at this point, it sort of became a little iterative procedure to look at the Sherlock tool that was basically shared, to understand what it can do and what sort of data it needs, and then looking to see what data is available in specific problem spaces, right? So I looked at Google Trends, I looked at Earth data to look at some publicly available data about like earthquakes in California. And I had a couple of conversations with another engineer who was working on trying to explore basically bias in AI systems used in crime, and what happens in terms of adversarial attacks and bias when like bias creeps into data in that system. So it went a little back and forth. It was a very good learning opportunity for me to basically get hands-on experience with open source projects, which can be a little daunting, like if you're not doing it as part of your day job, which wasn't, I'm mostly a systems person, but haven't like forayed into AI or ML. It was a very good learning experience in terms of AI and ML concepts, which I've been able to apply otherwise as well, right? So it was really good technical learning, and looking at the work and learning about the work of basically all the open source work that's going on was a very good learning experience. For me, one of the biggest challenges was to switch from a corporate production mindset to like a research mindset, where you are more attuned to deadlines and projects, and where research is a lot more free flowing. And then to find like a problem space which had publicly available data, right? And the right kind of publicly available data that you could use. And of course, life does happen because this is entirely outside of your job. So maintaining consistency is a big key. And then when COVID happened, things kind of went for a little bit of a toss. I've shared a few links here about like the project that I was looking into and like the different data sources that I used. Please feel free to connect with me if you want to talk about my experience with the program. It was a very good learning experience, and a big thank you to ThriveWise and Rupa for even facilitating it, because it was really good learning. There were challenges, but in terms of learning, it was a very good experience. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Niharika.
Hi, I'm Deepa Durka. I'm a software engineer and a parent. And most recently, I have been very interested in learning how to share my enthusiasm for engineering with my child who is in elementary school. So that has led me to learn a few things and have some epiphanies, which I will love to share today. And we are talking 6 to 12-year-olds. So if you see this reaction when you say engineering or tech, don't panic. It's on us to make it fun for them, and fun, is an important idea for this to be accessible for very young children that we're talking about. So as parents, when we are motivated to expose them to engineering, and we want to make it fun, the options we get are mind-boggling. There's a way, it's a chaotic, crowded marketplace, and there's a lot to think through. So I hope that in this talk I will be able to simplify some of these tracks and also kind of share a big idea that helped me through the process. So let's think about the goal, right? Why do we want our children to learn about engineering when they're so young? It might be for any of these reasons, right? They're all really good reasons: design thinking, problem solving. But my focus and my interest area has been in imparting something more encompassing, which is like a mindset, and the skills can, skills can kind of outdate, but that mindset stays on. And for that, inspiration becomes a really, really important idea. Is you keep your inspiration sources for your children and for yourself, more importantly, very close to you all throughout. You can do this with, there's books for really young kids as well. So here's my big idea: is this burning globe of the sun that you see in the center is your child's native interests. And what you see revolving around that are your opportunities to introduce technical learning to your child. So the idea is that if you attach these learning opportunities to their native interests, there is an ecosystem of motivation, and the fuel is there for them to learn and be interested in. And here you see just a variety of interests they might be engaged with, right? Any point of time, and it keeps changing, and it's fine. You pick one, and then where you start at is constructing, with everyday materials. You make three-dimensional things with, glue and tape and dollar store, materials, and put them all together, make it tactile. So they have this control over materials, and they know they can build something, right? And keep it thematic to their interest. And that's something that I'll keep going back to all the time. So on the left here, you see my son, when he was 6 years old, he devised this cardboard toy because he was so interested in arcade games. And the other thing you see is, because of his inclination to theater and stories, a puppet. And these are things, like you can see, are built out of just duct tape and beads and stuff. This is an important idea too, is you can devise projects that are more advanced than their skill level, and they can see the growth path towards that, and they'll see your excitement about it. So make toys, make it any level of, that also keeps you inspired. And here's an automator that I had devised, which was really, really fun. So when they're about 8 years old is when you can start exploring like formal training, like learning, methods. And again, there are many options. So I've tried to streamline them into tracks. The idea is to pick a track, not to overwhelm your child with all of them, right? That's the big idea, is you pick something, make it simple, and keep it sequential. So starting with the programming, you can see, I mean, anybody interested in this area has probably already seen that block coding is ubiquitous now. And that's that's really the ideal starting off point. Because with that, it's a jump off point to anything. And Scratch and Hour of Code have infinite possibilities to play with this. Here's an example of that, where you can make a Minecraft mod using block coding, which used to be like unheard of, right? A few years back, right? You have an if condition where the player is stepping on a grass block, and then it converts, it places a red rose on top of it. And the child puts this together and throws it into their Minecraft environment. And, you have something magical there, right? And, if you keep going down these tracks, right, you have this other really layered kind of a track called, that is robotics, where it's multidisciplinary. So again, it's on us to pick something, streamline it, and make sure it's, it's stepwise and not overwhelming to the child. This one, 3D design, is an evolving space. And we've already, I believe, had a lightning talk as well on this, and I'm very excited to watch that as well. But the avenues that are coming up for children are mind-boggling. There's the game development or 3D printers or augmented reality. There's so much that can be done, and it has an overlap with art. Gaming is, I wanted to touch upon this, is something that has boomed through the pandemic times as a great platform for peer engagement for kids. We as parents can encourage our daughters as well as sons to kind of play and play safely. And this is a conversation we can have with them. You can have control knobs and use that platform. So there are some interests that you may not think are directly correlated with tech projects. And I just have listed a few to challenge that idea. Is with gardening, you can think of some irrigation projects you can do. With art, there is conductive paint, and make beautiful greeting cards with LEDs and paint that works like wires. So here I hope to have kind of put together my set of inspirations that I keep going to a lot of times, and I keep introducing my child to this over and over. It's a mixed bag. It's got videos, it's got links to books, and it's concepts, it's everything. I just, if anybody wants to see where I get my excitement out of, it's there. And to summarize, right, is again, keep your child's interest at the very heart of it. And then you can see that you don't have to monitor this tech learning as a separate track. It organically develops on its own, and the motivation keeps growing as the child is learning more and more. So with that, I conclude, and I hope it was useful. Thanks.
Thank you, Deepa. That was excellent.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Shubhi Asthana, and I would be giving a talk on building data analytical tools for services. I work at IBM Research Almaden as a research senior software engineer, and I'm really happy to present my work at DevPulseCon. So a short bio of myself. I've been working for the past 5 to 6 years in the area of cloud services, IoT, and predictive analytics, and also presented the results of our work, the business results at top tier conferences. And in my free time, I like to blog on Medium. So what is our work about? Cloud service providers have to compete with each other so that they can sell services to enterprise clients. And while negotiating with the client, the negotiation can take like 3 to 12 months. There are a lot of services that we want to sell to the clients, and there are a lot of challenges that occur with this. Some of the challenges would be like text analytics. The client has like thousands of pages of document, and we have to process it all. Also, since the negotiation is taking a long time, you want to be able to predict over time how the negotiation to win the contract is going on. So predictive analytics is an issue that the business faces. And there are other issues too, like pricing. What kind of pricing you want to do for these services so that it is competitive enough with that market. Remember that we have clients globally, and we want to be able to factor in inflation, market rate, etc. And so market benchmarking is really important. So summarizing, in this issue, in this particular problem, we see that the whole process of winning and negotiating a deal is very manual, very fragmented. There are a lot of people who are working at different stages. It was very paper based and slow, and so we wanted to work on that. A lot of people have done some work in the past to build some kinds of data analytical tools. However, not all of them were automated, or it was not generic enough for all the services or service providers. And that's what we tried to overcome. So our goal over here was how can we develop these data analytical approaches to increase the winning odds of these contracts. So we took a lot of features about the services that we are trying to sell. Who is the client? Who is the deal executive or the person who's interfacing with the client, etc. And then we use a lot of tools, like we use machine learning with scikit-learn libraries. We also built some of our own algorithms, which we patented and also spoke in conferences. And then we built it on top of cloud services. So at IBM, we use the Bluemix services. And then using this, we built an overall solution. Now, the overall solution had different stages like identifying an opportunity, validating it, pursuing that opportunities like negotiating, contract, and then delivery. And so we realized that at multiple stages, different small tools were required for tracking the progress of the contracts or deals that we are trying to win. So in opportunity identification, we used natural language processing. We use system T to pass through the text and sift through the data and capture relevant text and tags. So to basically capture what are the requirements of the services. And we built a tool around that, which was quite successful. So what it did was it would process the documents, it would capture the requirements that were there in the that were listed by the client, and then see whether the service provider had matching services to it or not. Based on that, it would create a solution and present that to the client. So it was like a very wholesome end-to-end tool which would take in the client requirements and translate it into a solution. The next stage was validating a deal. Now, validating means I want to make sure that whatever services I'm selling, what is the cost price for it? What is the historical price for it at which I've sold it? What is the market price points for it? And based on that, build a prediction model which says at what price I should be selling these services. So this is a very important stage for us. And then we are pursuing the deal, repricing the deal at different stages, trying to predict what the deal outcome could be based on the customer comments. So whatever comments the customer or the client gives, we process it and understand what could be the outcome. And then while we are closing the deal, again we do analytics, which is looking at the previous comments, meeting notes, etc., as well as the data that we have about the deal contract, and using some really good machine learning algorithms to process and understand, are we going to win this deal or not? And to understand that, we built a tool which was the deal progress monitoring, which looked at what is the soft deadline to win the deal, what is the hard deadline that IBM and the client sets, and our service provider sets. So through this data analytical approach, what we did was we tried to transform the subjective, time-consuming business judgments into informed decisions that was not only helpful for the sales representatives who were talking with the client, but also for the management to get an overview of the deals. So we learned through this process is how can we provide business with a realistic cost price estimate. We also did good research on RFP and text mining. So that was a very good hands-on activity to do. And then predicting the possibility of winning the deal. That was the novel nugget in our end-to-end pipeline. How can we predict the possibility of winning the deal? And if we don't think we're winning the deal, what are the steps we can take? Maybe we need to change our pricing, or it's with the deal executive, anything. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shubhi. Just hang on. I'm going to pull in Deepa and Nia back into the fold so we can go into our Q&A session. And while we're waiting, hang on one sec. Let me see if I can get this going. I do have a question for you, Shubhi. What machine learning algorithms did you use for the prediction application of your tool set?
So initially we used logistic regression, and also did some KNN classifier models. And then after that, when the logic started getting more complex, we built our own algorithm around that. So I think that's a very good question, because most of the times we end up using the ready-made libraries. So building our own algorithm was like a challenge, but was good.
Awesome. I have another question for you. How can one leverage this tool set to other applications?
So the thing is that the way we built this tool set, it can process, it takes in what are the features which are the most important, and then use that for that particular application. So we have ensured some part of transportability across industries, and I think the user who wants to use it should just be aware of the essential features which are contributing to winning the deal.
Awesome, thank you. Let's go to Deepa next. Deepa, I have a couple of questions for you. There are many self-paced learning websites for coding. What's a good way to determine the right one for you or for your child?
There are actually so many that I spent about a month or so just parsing through different ones. But my learning out of that was, all of them more or less work off of block coding Scratch. So, Scratch is out there available for everybody. It's free. It has an amazing collection of, tutorials to learn off of. So if a parent can, engage with the child using that, that's great. But, I would say start with Scratch, keep hour of code handy, and then you can, get some time to parse through the other options.
Awesome. And let's see. Let's go to Nia. Nia, I've got a question for you. When you were working on the project with SRI researchers, like what was the most interesting learning that you had in the months that you worked on it?
So I think one of the biggest things that it started with basically something that I saw in the talk, the fact that a single pixel, like manipulating a single pixel, can actually completely change how like your AI system or your machine learning program sort of reacts to data. And I found that fascinating. And as you dig more into that, you see that the basis for AI and machine learning is basically statistics and math that have actually been around for like several years. And so when you start reading into like the math and the statistics, you can see how that really has an effect. So like reading up on those papers and like trying to see how just a single pixel can have like that big an effect, and trying to wrap my head around that math was like fairly interesting, right? So when I switched to basically like doing some formal machine learning courses, then I saw that I could actually very quickly, using existing models, write like a quick Python program to make my life as just a regular developer easier in terms of like applying that learning to like scan through logs and then look for keywords and then predict what area do you think which component in the entire stack do you think the problem sort of lies in? So understanding like the math and statistics behind it was very interesting to see. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Math and statistics have been around forever.
Yes.
And now we're just learning how to use it towards,
yes,
ML and AI applications. So given that this was a project that you did in your spare time, and we went through the whole legal upheaval of making sure that your company was okay with you doing an open source project, etc., etc. What was the most difficult thing for like balancing? Because you have a little kid, you're working full time, then you're doing this project. Okay, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So I think consistency, right? Like when you initially sign up, you think like, I'm going to spend X amount of hours, and then I'll be able to like make good progress with just those X amount of hours. But then life sort of happens. Like your day job takes on. It's a lot of a push and pull, like tug in terms of how many hours that you can take out. And when February, so we met in September, and we were chugging along and making progress until January. Then February kicked in, COVID happened, and things went for a complete toss, right? And then trying to figure out like the kid at home, your work schedule, and then still trying to like make some time. I think that was the biggest challenge, right?
Yeah.
I think consistency is really the key in terms of, you need to make sure that you set aside X amount of time, and it has to be like a specific, maybe it's a Saturday morning when things are like more quiet at home, and then you have a little bit of like thinking space to yourself, right? So figure out what in your schedule is like that time. And I think this applies to any personal learning project, right? If you put it on your calendar and you make sure that if you don't use up the whole entire slot, and you decide, okay, I'm going to learn about just one thing, or like read just half this paper, I'm going to get through this section and just like wrap my head around that. But you need to maintain consistency, and like you need to figure out how you can maintain consistency, because life will keep happening.
Yeah, the discipline aspect of it, very, very critical and very hard to do. It's very hard to do. I have one question for Deepa. Among the 3 tracks that you talked about, what will be the most beneficial to pursue, in your opinion?
That's a good question. See, the thing is, I'll make no bones about this, right? Any skill the child learns right now is going to obsolete. In 10 years, procedural code writing that we now do for a living may not exist. So we have to keep that in view when we are introducing these things to them. Python cannot be their life, right? What they'll develop out of Python, and the fact that they can build something out of it, is what they should keep with them. So then, using that as your idea, you can, build your, align it with your child's interest and pick whichever. It really then doesn't matter, right? What you want to build is something bigger and deeper. So I would say any track is really equal opportunity for that.
That definitely makes sense to me. It makes everybody else too, because they're all nodding their heads. Awesome. I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your talks, and for answering the Q&A, and for coming to DevPulseCon. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna just do a quick run through of our morning sessions that are coming up. So we have Upkar coming up at, let me just get my schedule up here. Upkar's coming up at 9:30 to 10. He's going to be talking about identifying and reducing bias in your ML pipelines, which should be a very interesting talk. After that, from 10:15 to 10:45 is our last session for recruiting and networking. And I want to really talk about how important this is. We have Zoom rooms, we have a very cool virtual reality space, and we are giving away our final virtual reality headset to people who attend the Zoom rooms, take photos, attend the VR space, take photos, or you can also take the survey that goes out at the end of the day via email to enter the raffle for the virtual reality headset. The last one that we have for today for DevPulseCon this year. So please do go to the networking and recruiting session. It's from 10:15 to 10:45 Pacific time today. And the URL should be on the slide that'll show up after the morning sessions end. We also have a meet and greet with the lightning talk speakers that you just heard. from 10:45 to 11:15 later this morning, and we added a brand new idea date session from 12 to 12:30 during lunchtime. By popular demand, it's been a huge hit this year. We've never done this before, so this was the first year. We didn't know how it was going to go. So it's a pilot, and it's been a huge hit. People want more of it. So we added a brand new session for lunchtime today for Idea Date with Ellen and Alice and me. So please do come to that. And because it was such a huge hit, we are planning on continuing idea dates on probably a bi-weekly basis, even after the conference. So please do sign up for our mailing list, which is, I'm just going to say it out. I posted it on chat as well. It's tinyurl.com/TW. TW is for ThriveWise. So TW-member-sign up. Pretty easy to remember. So tinyurl.com/TW-member-sign up. So please sign up for that, and so you can start getting our monthly newsletter. We do a COVID bulletin. We do not spam. We don't do too many announcements, but we will be sharing when we are uploading all our recordings from all our morning sessions at DevPulseCon via email. So it's important to sign up if you want to know when the recordings are published and where the location is. All right, and I think that's all I've got right now. We will start again at 9:30 Pacific with Upkar.